There's a term I came across called threshold sorrow. Have you ever heard that term before? Threshold
No,
sorrow.
but I like it. Talk
I
deeper.
like it. I never heard it, but I like it. Yeah, and it's described as a feeling of sorrow experienced when crossing a threshold in life.
Mm,
And I think that's exactly what Trent is experiencing. I think it's a very real thing in bhakti, and it's welcomed. You know,
mm.
there's an intimacy with God when you're feeling that. It's kind of like, okay, God, you took it all away. Now, like I was enjoying it in ignorance, and you kind of took the ignorance away, and now it's not enjoyable anymore. And here I am. I'm in your hands now. And where does it go from here? Take me. But I do feel it's a deep feeling. It's a bittersweet feeling,
Mm.
but there's something relishable in it. It's a mature blend, of feeling that you're rising to, and and in it you can become much more close to Krishna for real. Krishna that's the first stage, right? Take my taste away. I don't want to have a taste in these things anymore. I don't want to have a taste in these things anymore. Krishna takes it. Now you got to turn to him. Now you got to find the pleasure that is natural to you. We could say it's found within, because within your true nature is in connection to him.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. It's Saturday, Sleep-In Saturday, May 3rd, 2025. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Q&A Day. It's the day where people write in their questions, either to the Wisdom of the Sage message board, or they message Mara. What the hell is going on here? And then my phone rang right through my computer, Kaustubha. I don't know if you heard that.
I didn't hear it.
It was very awkward. That's why I stuttered. Anyway, it's the day we take questions. So we got a lot of questions today.
Yeah.
But before we go on, Miss Mara's here with some nuggets. What do you got, Nugget? We got things are falling apart today, Kaustubha, and we just started. What's our announcements today, Mara?
Well, there's no show tomorrow, but we'll
No
be back
show
on Monday at 7 a.m. Eastern time.
Okay.
No show tomorrow.
No.
Yeah, I just needed the day off, like bad. Tomorrow, and next week's gonna be like a busy week.
All right.
That's fair.
So
what's going on next week?
We'll reschedule. Well, there's travel.
Travel,
There's a lot of catching up I have to do just here at home, and then go on the road.
It's hard to do it every day.
Yeah.
So there's no show tomorrow, but happy birthday to Sammy Long, who's one of our Zoomers. Her birthday is tomorrow.
Oh, Sammy Long, happy birthday. Wish we were here. Let's celebrate it today. Happy birthday, Sammy Long.
And also, there's still some spaces left for our Wisdom of the Sages retreat, May 23rd through 26th, but you should sign up now if you're planning on joining us.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. It's coming up now.
It's getting very, very beautiful here.
It's so
All
nice.
flowers are blooming. My fence is almost done. I'm so happy. We're about to build a whole new garden in the back. We're going to grow lots of veggies this year. Just went for a bike ride this morning. Things are looking hopeful for our future.
All right. Things are bright this morning.
It was, yeah. So we're going to dive right into questions unless you've got any announcements, Mr. K, Special K.
No announcements. I'm ready to get into the Q&A.
All right. So this is from Trent, who's been listening regularly on Zoom. We always have a live audience on Zoom, which makes it sort of fun. Harry Ball, my question is hopefully an easy one, but one that I've been thinking about for quite a bit over the last few months. My spiritual journey has deepened greatly over the last year. And the further I walk on this path, the less gratification I have from the material world. Ooh, this is a good question. As it should be. However, despite how liberating it all is, I've found myself feeling sorrow over the loss of that previous joy I had from these material things. And I view them now with indifference.
You have to
So
read
here's
that
the
again because I found
how,
myself feeling sorrow over the loss of the previous joy that I had from these material things.
yeah, I
Okay.
view them now with indifference.
Okay.
Is this a normal part of the spiritual journey? And is if it is, or even if it isn't, how do I make those sorrows go? I assume that just continuing my path will eventually take that from me as well. But any insights would be helpful. Thank you, Trent. What a great question.
Yeah.
It's a serious great it's a serious great question. When did I start this?
Okay.
I really get this too, and I really understand where you're coming from. Um, but to the degree we invest in spirit, the taste is so sweet, and it's not like this big flash of excitement type of sweet. It's a sublime type of sweetness. And the romance of our material life is gets punctured, and we start to sort of see it for what it was. Oftentimes, I can just speak for myself. Oftentimes, the things I felt were joy. You called those things joy, but I'm going to ask you to sort of study that. Was it a type of joy, or was it sort of like a romance or a hope to enjoy, or a joy of the ego? Um, I know I was like a big collector of everything. I collected stuff. I thought it was sort of cool. I was getting to niche little things and I collected them. My stuff was sort of puny. People collect, real estate, cars, you know, uh, expensive clothing, jewelry. I connected the trivial, trite things. But that being said, they were sort of attachments that I got a type of pleasure out of. Um, when I got more and more into bhakti, I realized that those types of joys weren't joy at all. It was just sort of an extension of my ego towards other collectors who would think I was sort of cool, and I would say, "Hey, check out my stuff." Eventually, it gets old quick, especially if you analyze it. Am I really getting that much pleasure out of it? I can tell already. I have a motorcycle. I love driving my motorcycle around, but there's always a desire to get another motorcycle. I want one like a more of a dirt bike. I want more of a street bike. It's like it never will end. And people can do that not just with motorcycles. They can do it with anything. It can just keep on going. And and really the pleasure is very, very puny compared to what it promises me. Yeah, I'm just going to get a street bike now. I'm just going to get an adventure bike. I'm going to get a dirt bike, and then I'm going to have all my bases. And I've even talked to motorcycle aficionados, and they say, yeah, they're just like a bunch of different tools, and you got in your toolbox. But the real thing is, we end up just collecting more and more. It's just more and more junk, and it really doesn't satisfy the soul. And the yogi, the spiritualist, what they actually learn is actually there's more and more satisfaction with very, very little. And those first lessons I learned when I came to India when I was a young man was these people who had nothing, they seemed to be the happiest. And they were less complicated because the more things I have, the more complicated life becomes. Because then I got to worry about maintaining three motorcycles, and that's a pain. And that's an investment in my time and my energy, which I could be going to something maybe that is more fulfilling. And I see this with other hobbies in my life or sports in my life when it becomes more than just sort of maintaining my body. Certain things, even for health, can pass a point of maintaining my body where it becomes an extension of my ego. And I want to look a certain way for certain, or, yeah, appear a certain way. And then is my health also becoming part of my ego now? So Krishna gives us insight. This is part of self-realization. It's understanding your material self, understanding your material ego, and 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 the taste that I got from that previously, which I thought was very sweet, is really just like a drop that I'm getting from my spiritual life. And there is a sadness sometimes, and I dip my feet in it too. Sometimes I'll say, let's do something nostalgic. Let's do something that was fun in the old days, and you can't. I find I can't go back and enjoy it. It's almost like if you've got into eating very healthy, and you say, "Hey, let's go out to Carvel and get a ice cream sundae." It's just it's not tasty anymore. In the old days when I was a teenager and I would just eat a bunch of ice cream, that was good. Nowadays, if I'm going to eat ice cream, it's like I like vegan ice cream. I like natural sugars. I've got my bar has raised so much that if I was to eat something like that, I would feel sick immediately. So it's what happens in spiritual life. We raise our bar of our joy, and we realize that the other pleasures weren't even that joyful. And while we're talking about that, if people have their own understanding of that too, they can maybe write it on the message board. I'd be interested to see what other people have lost taste for, even though it might have been a very high taste for them. Kaustubha, do you have some realization in that regard yourself? I'd like to hear
I believe
maybe what the
that.
things that you loved and was sort of like have lost taste in.
I think what Trent is speaking about here is very real and is a good thing. In other words, there's a term I came across called threshold sorrow. Have you ever heard that term before? Threshold
Oh,
sorrow.
I like it. Talk
I
deeper.
like it. I never heard it, but I like it. Yeah, and it's described as a feeling of sorrow experienced when crossing a threshold in life.
Mm,
And I think that's exactly what Trent is experiencing. I think it's a very real thing in Bhakti, and it's welcomed.
mm.
There's an intimacy with God when you're feeling that. It's kind of like, okay, God, you took it all away. Now, like I was enjoying it in ignorance, and you kind of took the ignorance away, and now it's not enjoyable anymore. And here I am. I'm in your hands now. And where does it go from here? Take me. But I do feel it's a deep feeling. It's a bittersweet feeling,
Mm.
but there's something relishable in it. It's a mature blend, of feeling that you're rising to, and and in it you can become much more close to Krishna for real. Krishna that's the first stage, right? Take my taste away. I don't want to have a taste in these things anymore. I don't want to have a taste in these things anymore. Krishna takes it. Now you got to turn to him. Now you got to find the pleasure that is natural to you. We could say it's found within because within your true nature is in connection to him.
Mm.
So you go within. I have two poems, Raghunath,
Oh.
that are from Vaishnavas that are speaking about this, because I think it's something that's so subtle and special that poetry is in
Yeah.
the right place to. A lot of the Vaishnava songs, deal with this. But I have one song from my own guru, poem from my own guru,
Mm.
and then one from Srila Prabhupada. But this poem from my guru, it was written as like a Vyasa Puja offering, like on the birthday of the guru that you write, you make an offering.
Yeah.
He was a really good poet. You know that,
Sure.
Raghunath?
I've read some of his poetry
Yeah.
to him. I've read
Oh,
his poetry to him.
wow.
I've performed some of his
Okay.
poetry in a dramatic reading to him.
That was like a rap, though, right?
Yeah. Well, I turned it into a rap. It was sort of
Oh,
just a
okay.
rhyme. It was sort of like a metered, some type of prose in like a particular meter, but I turned it into a rap
Oh,
song for
w-
him. There's
well,
a recording of it somewhere.
out there somewhere, huh? Well,
Yeah.
this was a poem he wrote called "Oh, my master's lotus feet are
Mm,
bittersweet."
mm,
I think I read it one time on the show like years ago.
let's
And
hear it.
I wish I knew if we had a real poet here because I don't really understand the structure. It's like the verses are in like 3 lines each, and the first line and the third line rhyme. So I don't really know like the pace and how to read it, but I'll do
Sure.
my best. Okay. But hear this out. So it's a poem that he's writing about his guru, and rather than saying you're so great or you've made my life so happy, or he's saying serving you is a bittersweet experience because everything of my previous life is dying,
Mm,
so and it's giving me a deeper understanding of who I really am underneath, and it's not all necessarily good, but that's also good that I'm seeing it now, it's like,
right.
okay, so he writes, God's greatest gift, service to my master, exorcist of the ghost of past desire,
Hmm.
sweet purgative, bittersweet oil of castor. And that was an interesting phrase, exorcist of the ghost of past desire. It's like I think Trent just has a couple of those ghosts are still. You killed the desire, but the ghosts are still floating around, you know.
Hey, what about me? Hey, what about me? I'm a good ghost.
And you can't even touch the ghost though. Yeah. I've found my master's service does inspire desirelessness of all but pleasing him. Without remorse, I watch life joys expire. Let lust retire that most acidic sin. By Guru's grace, its misery alkalize.
Hmm.
My soured life rescued by his discipline. I hide my sin and shame lest he recognize my faults and condemn what I enjoyed. Better than praise, chastisement satisfies. My futile lies, God's servant to avoid, fearing his virtues would smash my vain conceit, forced by his love into service unalloyed. How can I avoid the shelter of his feet when the feelings of my heart are overjoyed? Oh, my master's lotus feet are bittersweet.
Hmm.
I I don't know how you write a poem like that, you know. But you see, this is something real, you know.
Yeah.
Watching your previous life die, something has to die before the next thing grows.
You know, fill him up with Bhakti on the message board said something very sanguine.
Okay.
He said it's not like he let go of stuff. It's just by practicing. What'd he say? What's been nice in so many cases, I haven't had to renounce most of my old lower taste. They just sort of fall away.
Yeah,
And
but
and that's it. We're not even asking, hey, get rid of this, stop doing that. After a while, it just
you
like it
lose the
just
taste.
doesn't give me what it used to give me
That's a blessing.
when I was an illusion.
Yeah, and that's the blessing. That is a
Yeah.
blessing. Now, Prabhupada wrote this poem when he was living in Vrindavan all alone. It's called Vrindavan Bhajan or Vrindavane Bhajan. You know this one? Or I think we read this once before too. And it's a long. I think it's like 27 verses, but I'll just read a little bit of it.
Okay.
But you have to picture Prabhupada now is all alone. He's got no money. He's got
Mm.
no. He's really doesn't have his family anymore. You know, his
Mm.
wife, his family wasn't really appreciating his service. You know, and this is what he writes. He writes, "I'm sitting alone in Vrindavan Dham. In this mood, I'm getting many realizations." And that's key here, right? Like in that mood of like everything of my past is dying, you get deep realizations about life. I'm sitting alone in Vrindavan Dham. In this mood, I'm getting many realizations. I have my wife, son, daughters, grandsons, everything, but I have no money. So they are all a fruitless glory. Krishna has shown me the naked form of material nature. By his strength, it has all become tasteless to me today. And then he quotes from Bhagavatam, where Krishna says, I gradually take away all the wealth of those upon whom I am merciful.
Mm.
And then Prabhupada says, how was I able to understand this mercy of the all merciful? Everyone has abandoned me, seeing me as penniless, wife, relatives, friends, brothers, everyone. This is misery, but it gives me a laugh. I sit alone and laugh. In this Maya samsara, whom do I really love? Where have all my loving father and mother gone to now? And where are my elders? And where are my own folk? Who will give me news of them? Tell me who. All that is left of this family is a list of names.
I love that statement, huh? Did Prabhupada come up with that? A
As
long
far as
list
I
of
know.
names?
As
Or
far
has
as I know.
that been anywhere else?
This is as far as I know. Now that's kind of the bittersweet part, right? It's like it's bitter because the warmth in your life, you know, that you were enjoying before, he's saying the naked form of it has been exposed to me. I see it with without all the dressing on it now, and it's not
Yeah.
so attractive underneath, right? And in one sense, it's bitter, but it's you have to clear the ground first for something else to grow. And now he begins to talk about Spiritual there's like my family, right? I thought they were the source of my enjoyment. But what's the spiritual realization that grows once you let go of that or once that dies? He says, but everyone is your relative brother on the spiritual platform.
Mm.
This relationship is not tinged with the smell of Maya. The Supreme Lord is the soul of everyone. In relation to him, everyone in the universe is the same. All your relatives, brother, all the billions of jivas, when seen in relation to Krishna, they are all in harmony. It's so he's saying it wasn't just this family. Now everyone can be my family. Once my material attachments die, my spiritual experience opens up, and I can actually have love and joy with every living being. And then he goes on in this poem and he begins to describe how we try to see this world like that we're always happy in it. And then even when things go really wrong, we're always trying to convince ourselves that everything's just going to be well, and we're always making plans to be well again. And rather than let it die, but if we let those things die,
Mm.
then we actually become free. And there is that threshold sorrow that you may be experiencing. It's something very real, but appreciate it. See it as a blessing. That would be my suggestion, Trent. See it as a blessing, and don't worry. Spiritual life is not meant to be miserable. He won't. But
Yeah.
in that, there's even we've been talking earlier this week about this subtle experience of bliss in separation, right? That the love in separation is a deeper, more blissful thing than love in union. This is maybe in a way something a little bit similar to that. When my material life dies and it looks like sorrow, there's actually bliss in that. There's actually a sweetness in that bitterness, and taste that sweetness, and have faith that 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 when you replace those so-called joys with the joys of bhakti, with the hearing and the chanting and the feasting and the dancing and the sangha and all of that, that you're on the threshold of a deeper, far more meaningful and eternal happiness.
Yeah, it's a real process, Kaustubha. It really works. It brings you higher and higher through the gunas.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of. I mean, maybe a lot of people could relate to this. But there's a time where people wake up in the morning and the first thing they do is smoke a cigarette, and they get out of bed and they smoke. And it's hard for us to do that. Even think like that.
Yeah.
People who have smoked and given it up will probably look back and say, I can't believe I used to do that. I can't believe like that was my morning.
Yeah.
And you start to change and you lose a taste for those. It's not like there's not a taste there. It's just a lower vibrational taste. And so we have a process no matter where you're coming into, because we all have some different karma that we're coming into this from with different attachments. It starts to lift our consciousness higher and higher and higher. And then we have to choose. Do I want to let go of this or do I want to hold on to it a little bit more? Actually, I'm getting something out of this. But eventually Krishna starts shaking it all out of our hands. And if we want him, he said, well, you're going to have to let go of everything else. You can't have too many things in your hands. You're going to have to drop a few.
Yeah.
And that's what I see happening in my life as well as everyone I meet's life who's on this in this practice.
Mm.
Great question, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ready for the next?
This is from Nityananda Chandras. He's got an active sage community on his or active sage group.
Sage group.
Oh wait, but this is from Nityananda Chandra
It's
via
from
the Sage Community
He
platform.
wrote this to the Sage Community platform.
Oh, okay. Dear Raghu and Kaustubha, question about the three gunas, the three modes of material nature.
Okay.
As teachers, we try to make eternal and ancient concepts understood by the modern mind. That's a great way to put it, and the modern heart. One presentation about the three gunas of nature is comparing it to energy states: equilibrium, exertion, and exhaustion, where equilibrium would be like goodness, exertion would be passion, exhaustion would be ignorance. In the yoga community, this is often how it's presented, or other similar ways wherein goodness is like a neutral state in between. However, I do find that this presentation is missing something. The mode of goodness brings great clarity. It seems like the Vedic presentation is more than just the in between of a spectrum of activity and lethargy, but rather a third energy or a third characteristic that brings with it clarity, awareness, satisfaction, and peace as its own how do you pronounce this word?
Concomitant.
Concomitant elements.
Concomitant. Elements that come along
Concomitant.
with it
Okay.
without you even trying for them, in a sense.
Sattva is such a rare flavor of this world, and I feel that such presentations don't clearly identify this guna, this mode of material reality. What are your reflections?
Are you asking me? Or are you
Well,
gonna
he's
take-
asking
He's
us.
asking. Yeah, but you paused, so I was wondering, do you want to jump into
Yeah,
that?
I'll start first. I also really want to hear what you have to say.
Okay.
Sometimes you don't realize, sometimes, like if you're at a paint store and you want to paint your house white, they'll say, okay, here, look at this. What is it? A swatch. And you'll be like, yeah, there's the white. And then you hold it up to a next white and they're like, oh, wait, that's an almond white. I'm looking for a pure white. Well, there's another cloud white. And you realize you don't even realize what white is until you put it next to all these other whites. So sometimes we think, well, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I'm a vegetarian or a vegan. I'm pretty much in the mode of goodness. But what I find in my own life is when I put even, quote, good qualities next to what I learned to be sattva, real sattva, I realize, like, no, Raghunath. I don't care if you are straight edge, vegan, vegetarian, regulated. There's so much other passion and ignorance within your thoughts, within your lifestyle, within your habits. So I thought I was white. Actually, I'm like navy blue. It's like black with a tiny little bit of white in there, with a twist of red. And so what I find is real sattva is something it's hard to even see in this world, especially in people. But sometimes you meet people who are just very high in sattva, and they pose like this juxtaposition. And I see that in the yoga system. I see that in people that I've met in India, not even Vaishnavas necessarily, but they have a sattva that goes with them from their behavior, from their activities, from their almost like a type of elegance, from their refinement. And when I juxtapose it against my own behavior, I realize how there's so much more. So even within white, there's so many nuances of what it could be. And as we bring more light into our life, we sometimes realize, like, oh man, I am actually way down this ladder than I thought I was. I thought I was a little bit higher up. So reflections on goodness. Yeah, when in goodness, it illumines so many more things, including my future choices, all my desires, the people I want in my life, the things I want to consume, the things I want to put in my ears and my eyes. Yeah, it starts me recalibrate all my tastes. What do you think?
I think you shouldn't put things in your ears or your eyes.
You should put them in.
Okay.
Kidding? Have you ever done a eye cleanse? Like they put, I think they do
Some
it in
drops?
Ayurveda, where they put a
Oh.
cup on your eye and you put.
Oh no, I've
I've
never
done
done that. Put oil
I've done
on
it with
there?
wheatgrass juice. I've consumed wheatgrass juice through my eyes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
How'd
thing.
that work out for you?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I had nothing to really compare it to.
All right. But if I understand Nityananda Chandra Prabhu correctly, he's saying, like I think he's experiencing something that I've experienced a lot, like say in the quote unquote Western yoga world, is that like a lot of people that come to asana, they come to yoga through asana in
Mm.
the Western world, and they associate the word yoga with asana as if that's what yoga is, when it's really just a very, very small part of yoga. And so when they interpret like Bhagavad Gita, its teachings on the gunas, or so many things, they interpret it through the eye of their physical practice, and they kind of contort it, not just their bodies, but they can kind of contort the Bhagavad Gita to their limited idea of what yoga is. And so if you really want to try to understand what these gunas are, Bhagavad Gita is the book for it. It's really got, the whole 14th chapter, the whole 17th chapter, much of the 18th chapter, and in so many other places in the Gita, it's really giving this kind of thorough presentation, of what the different gunas are, and in contrast to each other.
Mm.
And so I think you get these watered down explanations of what they are, because like if your goal, okay, I want to do asana and I want to like have more peace in my life, then you just kind of you twist these explanations into that. There's a confusion that arises, I think, because if you don't have a vision of spirituality as dynamic action and service in life,
Mm.
selfless dynamic service, then you think that the goal is just to be peaceful. And anybody that's active and dynamic in action, well, they must be in rajasic.
They're wrong. Their whole state of being is wrong.
Yeah. So there's but it's understandable that misunderstanding could develop. If you look at the Bhagavad Gita 14th chapter in text 9, it says sattvam sukhe sanjayate, that from sattva develops happiness, and then raja karmani bharata, from raja develops action, karma, right? So it's oh well, if you're active in life, well then you must be rajasic, and if you're just happy and sitting still, then you're sattvic. But that's not all it said. That's like, it's when it says action develops, it's when it says karma in that context, if you have to read the whole thing in context, it means fruit of action where I'm desiring a material result for the action.
Mm.
That's what it's speaking about. So, and we can understand that as we go deeper into, like if you just go a few verses later in text 16, it says karmana sukritasyayo sattvikam nirmalam palam, that action done in sattva. Oh, now we're talking about a sattvic person that's active, right? Action done in sattva brings a purified result. It's a result that's it's not the result of the actions and actions. It's a result that's pure of that selfishness in it, you know. And then it compares it to rajas. Action in rajas brings misery, and action in tamas, it results in foolishness.
Mm.
So it's giving us a vision, and that's spoken about. If we go to the 17th chapter, then it talks about doing all the things that a fruitive person would do, a rajasic person would do: worship, sacrifice, austerity, speech, penance, charity. All of these can be done in a rajasic mode, in a tamasic mode, but they're also shown how they can all be done in a sattvic mode, and how the results are always purified when they're done in that mode. And chapter 18, it describes that action which is regulated and which is performed without attachment, without, then it says without love or hatred, meaning without attachment or aversion, right?
Mm.
And without a desire for fruitive results, is said to be in the mode of goodness. And then it says this: and one who performs their duty without the association of the modes of material nature, without false ego, with great determination and enthusiasm, and without wavering in success or failure, is said to be a worker in the mode of goodness. So here you have someone working in the mode of goodness with great determination and enthusiasm. That's a picture of the sattva guna. It's not just it's equilibrium in one sense. I can see the connection there with equilibrium, exertion, and exhaustion, but there is exertion in the mode of goodness. but it's exertion with equilibrium, right? It's exertion. It's a balanced exertion where one has let go of the materialistic, selfish sense of what they're of a motive, and they're working without that materialistic motive. So there's a detachment and an action combined, and and then it's being done with great determination, unbreakable determination. When you're really sattvic, when you read, especially in that 14th chapter, again and again, when it talks about the mode of goodness, it uses words like prakasha. It means illumination. Everything is lit up, right? So one person is acting the person that's acting in real darkness is in the tamaguna, and the person acting still in darkness, but not quite as bad as the person in rajaguna. But there's action, dynamic action, determination, done with in light, with the illumination of knowledge. That's sattvaguna. So I think, a lot of these presentations are being done by people that never really study the Bhagavad Gita. They just take a little thing and they wrap it into their yoga class and they're, but it's if the terms that are used there is driti, which means determination, and utsaha, with enthusiasm. Yeah, you can act with enthusiasm in this world and be in sattvaguna, not just chill necessarily. And you can do that because you're happy, because you are satisfied, because you're content, because I don't feel like I need to work for some selfish motive. I'm ready to work with the selfless motive with full enthusiasm. Nothing's holding me back. That's action in the mode of goodness.
Likey.
All right.
Good question. All right, this is a big one.
Got another?
Next question. This is from Madhumati.
yeah.
Madhumati Garangi. Dear Concrete Jungle Sages, I was very inspired by your recent comments regarding the nature of transcendental loving relationships.
Okay.
I actually watched the short animated film Sita Sings the Blues when it came out years ago, while I was serving at New York City's Bhakti Center, even before it was called the Bhakti Center. She's so old school, Madhumati.
Old school.
Old school. I appreciated the female point of view in the retelling of Sita's Leela, but I always felt that she would never speak so harshly about her beloved Ram. There is, however, a splinter in my mind. I like the way she puts that.
Splinter in my
When
mind.
Sita was banished, she was actually pregnant with twins, Love and Kush.
Love and Kush.
I understand the concept of conjugal love and separation. That's what we explained, Madhuri Ras, being considered the highest form of love. However, what about the Ram's unborn twins? How is that a higher Ras for them, who belong to a very different loving category, but Salya to be born as banished princes, forbidden to meet their father, and raised without his parental affection? Thank you for shining the torch of knowledge, your aspiring servant and well-wisher, Madhumati. That is a great question because me and Mara were on a nice japa walk the other day.
Talking about Love and Kush?
Talking about Love and Kush.
Okay.
And we said, and we got into and we appreciated the loving separation, but we still just went, why? Why? I get it. I understand it. Love and separation. But why? Why did it have to end like that? And I understand philosophically, etc. And maybe we're supposed to just always lean into that. But there is a splinter in my mind, or in my heart, might be a better thing. Why? You say, well, Love and Kush were also raised by a great sage. Love and Kush were also did get to re-meet their father in a very exciting way, because they heard the story of the Ramayana from Valmiki, and they could revel, wow, I get to meet this Ram. And then they find out Ram's his father. That reuniting with the father could have been even more special than being raised by your father, because sometimes being raised by your father, you take your father for granted. So there's so many philosophical ways I feel like I could justify this story ending like it did. And I go on to one of those, that's just one of the mysteries of God that we can't understand. But I will say truthfully, with me and Mara, there's still a little splinter in our hearts, right, Mara?
Little splinter in the heart.
What do you think?
Yeah, I
Like,
agree with that also.
we sort of get it. And there has to be a little, a leap of faith, or say, well, that's what happened. That's just the the way it is, and get your head around it, get over it.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It's a tough little splinter in the
Get
heart.
over it, you too. Swallow
No.
that pill. Swallow it. No, I understand. I think what you're saying, but we got to really try to understand the spiritual principles. Try not to see the spiritual through the material lens. Prabhupada, he phrased it so nicely when he was talking about separation from the guru, and apparently the guru dies, and then you're separate from them. But he doesn't die. He said, he lives forever by his divine instruction, and the rest of it, Raghu? He lives forever by his divine instruction, and the follower lives with him.
Mm.
That there is, when we're talking on the spiritual platform, separation, living in one, being physically separated is not at all in any way an impediment. When you're actually, operating on the spiritual level, there is no separation. Prabhupada would be sitting in New York City and say, "You think I'm sitting in New York? I'm sitting in Vrindavan." He would say, sometimes people would write him letters saying, "Oh, we're feeling separate. I never felt I was alone." Someone would write a letter, "Prabhupada, I'm here all alone." I never felt I was alone. Even when I was in New York and I was apparently all alone, I never felt all alone. I always felt the presence of my spiritual master. That's a spiritual principle that when the mind and the heart are focused on the object of one's love, one is with them in a way that is no less real than being physically present. And one can be physically present with someone and be a million miles away.
Mm.
And so that's a principle that we're meant to contemplate. We're meant to meditate on, to try to understand, try to experience. Now with Love and Kush, I mean, they did meet Lord Ram, but just look at their life. They're raised by Valmiki.
Doesn't get better than that.
It doesn't get better. He's the one that wrote the Ramayana, and their whole life, he's teaching them the songs that glorify Lord Ram. He's teaching them the Ramayana, and they're learning it and singing it all the time. That was like their life. They grew up singing the glories, and through that, loving him in their hearts profoundly. And then eventually they were brought to the court of Ram in Ayodhya, and they sang those songs for Ram without even knowing that Ram was their father. And then it was revealed to them that this Lord Ram is actually your father, right? So like their whole life was deep absorption in love for Ram and deeply feeling the presence of love, of Ram's love in their hearts, And we see this playing out throughout the shot. Look at Bhagavatam. You have this very fascinating story of Rukmini, right? The first wife of Krishna. She's never met Krishna. She's only heard about him from the Brahmanas, right? She's heard the glories of Krishna, and simply by hearing, she's completely fallen in love with him. And she writes him that love letter, right? The love letter is right there in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, right? Where she's writing, I'm in a couple of days, I'm meant to be married to, it was Shishupal, right?
Yeah, Shishupal.
And she's like, "But please come and save me." And she gives him the whole plan of how you can kidnap me, But she's saying that just by hearing about you and your wonderful qualities, I've fallen in love with you. And that's real. It's like just by hearing. We find the same thing with the wives of the Brahmanas. They had never met Krishna, But when Krishna's friends came and said, "Krishna's hungry, can you come feed him?" They immediately, the love of their hearts, it was already there because they had just heard about Krishna. And this is our path. It's by hearing about Krishna in separation that we develop that love and we feel that presence. So Love and Kush, I mean, they had the author of the Ramayana right there with them. Just I understand you might feel that splinter, but there's no need for that splinter. They had a life of feeling the love of Ram like we can't imagine, right? Even those that were with him in Ayodhya weren't necessarily feeling it more profoundly than they were feeling it.
Yeah, but I get it.
But
Hard to understand.
yeah, it's
Hard to
something that we only
understand
understand
because
through
Ram,
experience.
it's like Ram listened to this washerman who was complaining about his wife more than what would be sort of obvious type of dharma.
That's
He
just the
just
very
just some
external
sort of
surface.
I know, but some sort of belligerent, man yelling at his wife, and you're gonna change.
No, no, that wasn't the real reason. That's the point.
I
So then
understand,
why are you
but
dwelling on it? You
well,
under
because I'm in a position of leadership. Oftentimes, when people speak ill about me, and imagine
yeah.
if I was to say, "Oh, that person speaks ill of me," maybe what can I do to pacify that person? If I can go around and try to get everybody to think I'm okay, I'm a good person, that's never going to happen. So I just think it sort of triggers that in people, and that's why I still
Let
have
it
that splinter in
go.
my heart. You thought
Let
you were
it
removing the splinter.
go.
The splinter's there. I think it's okay that it's there,
I
Madhumati.
didn't say I thought I was removing it.
You thought you were going to surgically remove that splinter. It's still there. It's still there, and
Let it
I'm
go.
leaving that
You
to one of
have to let it
those
go, Raghunath.
religious mysteries that I don't understand right now. Even though I philosophically understand it, I don't.
Do you?
My heart doesn't fully. Philosophically, I do.
All right.
But yeah,
No, to be love or kush, like in other words, if you have a just a spark, just a little sprout of desire to feel the love of Lord Ram, to feel the presence of Lord Ram in your life
mm,
and heart all the time. It's not like, oh, poor Love and Kush, they were bereft of that. No,
mm.
Love and Kush had it more than practically anyone in existence. You know, they were they if that's they had it, they had it.
Hmm.
Krishna's presence is not limited to a physical, limited area. It's just not. It just is not. Right? That name, when we chant Krishna's name, that's Krishna right there. You chant that name purely. Krishna is there. It's not. He's not limited to time. Doesn't limit him. Space doesn't limit him. Nothing limits him. He's unlimited.
You have one more question. I think we got time for it.
He's not limited, Raghunath.
I know. He's not.
Okay. Oh, now this is from Akshay.
Akshay?
You know about Akshay?
Akshay. No, I don't.
We were taking questions from Akshay when you were on tour, when we were doing shows when you were on tour without
Without
you.
me. Hmm.
But Akshay was a person when I was doing doing Q&A booth every night in Rishikesh.
Yeah.
He used to come all the time and he had lots of good questions. And then on the last night, he's like, I have a lot of questions still. And I was like, look, I had the
Write 'em
last
down.
chance to go into the kirtan, and then
All
it's
right.
late. I got to go to bed and leave early in the morning. I said, but you can write me questions. We'll take them on the show. He said, okay, I'll write you questions. He wrote 81 questions.
Oh, wow.
So we're gradually working through them. So,
Akshay. It could be a book, and it's a book.
yeah, questions from
Akshay.
Akshay.
Questions from Akshay. That's a great idea. Anyway, here's his first one. What did God intend for us to do in this material world? How do we know we are doing what he intended for us to do?
Oh, good question. Huh? What do you think, Raghu?
I said God just wants us to fulfill our desire to be separate from him.
That's what he wants us to do?
Fulfill our desire to be separate from him. Yeah, because God, like a parent, if you have a bunch of kids, you always know there's one kid who just wants to do what he wants to do. So even though you have some idea of what would be the best thing to do, one of these kids you're gonna have to get to this point where you say, you know what, just do what you want to do. And in that mood of desire to be separate, they create the illusion. We see this sometimes in a little child. You have a toddler, like when my kid was little. Because I drive a tractor, he wanted a little tractor, so you give him a little tractor. He wanted what else did he want? A little chainsaw. So I gave him a little fake chainsaw. Now the chainsaw doesn't cut wood. The tractor doesn't pull anything or plow anything or cut anything. They're just sort of reflections of what the real tractor is, what the real chainsaw is, and so he could pretend. Um, that's what the material world is. It's a pretend world where we get to pretend to be God. When we want that separation from God, where we don't want to be in our natural state, which is deeply connected to God, we want to forget about God and make it all about us, with ourselves as the center, not to be the center, or not to serve the center, but to be the center. And so then God arranges props for us, and those props are called karma and stuff. Between our karma and our stuff, we try to use our karma and our stuff to make us worshipable by somebody or something or a community. But it will never fulfill us because it's not our real position. It will never give us what we want. It'll give us quick fixes of praise and ego stroking, but it won't fill the heart. So what did he intend for us to this world? To give us some leash to do our own thing. And eventually to learn lessons, to realize this isn't what is actually satisfying us. And a lot of us are on this podcast because we're at that point where we're like, you know what? There's actually nothing here for me. I've been wearing this costume, and I've been trying to desperately be the center, get the validation, get my ego stroked, and it doesn't give me what my heart really wants. And so we start to find, okay, well, what is my real identity? I want to connect with Source again. I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about something greater than me. I want to be part of something bigger. I want purpose. A lot of times people feel like, I've been working my whole life. I need retirement. You don't need retirement. Retirement is an abyss. It's a void without purpose. We want purpose. And there's lots of purposes in this life, in this world rather. But the highest purpose, they say, is to find our purpose connected with Source. And when we do that, then we fill that God-shaped hole with some clarity, with some meaning, with some substance, and our quote retirement becomes quite joyful as well.
I think that's what he's asking about, though. Like, in other words, what did God intend to be my purpose? I think that's what he's asking. Not like, I don't think he's asking, why does the material world exist? I think he's asking, how do I know what God intends me to do as my purpose?
Well, that's how I took it. Now you grab this baton and run with it.
Okay, all right. Well, not that I didn't appreciate all that you're saying. I think it's real important. But you were just giving the super zoomed out kind of view. I think he's asking, let's zoom it in. How do I know that what I'm doing in my life?
Okay. Yeah.
Is
Okay.
what God intends
I've
for
read
me to
that
do.
question completely wrong. You should have just axed me in the beginning.
No, it was great. It was
Enough.
great stuff. It was great stuff.
Got that big, whatever is that shepherd's cane where you just hook the guy and pull him off the stage.
No. I didn't mean it like that.
But I think you're right. That's it, now that I'm rereading it, I'm realizing maybe that's what he meant. Okay.
So in one sense, there's like stock answers that we could give, and not when I say stock, I don't mean to like minimize their value, but the Shastra is there, right? These sacred texts are there to give us direction in life. But even the sacred texts, they can be a little bit hard to apply and understand how they apply to me. There's many instructions there on many levels to many different people in different ways and so on. So how do I know what my purpose is? And that's a lot where we get, instruction from people that we see are advanced in this and that have, that's what gurus are, people that know the Shastra well, they know these teachings very well, they live them well, and they can understand how to prescribe them, just like a doctor knows how to prescribe medicine according to the individual's needs, But still, even, it can be still hard to understand. Think about Yudhishthir, right? Who's like, the emblem of Dharma, or Dharma Raj. We see that throughout the Mahabharata, he was struggling. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? And we see even after the Battle of Kurukshetra, which Krishna engaged him in fighting in. We read this in the first canto of Bhagavatam. Yudhishthira was just like, I don't know if I did the right thing. He couldn't be consoled. And even Krishna himself couldn't console him. Krishna was saying, no, Yudhishthira, what you did was good. You did the right thing. And Yudhishthira's like, I don't know. That Krishna himself is telling him, And so Krishna had to take him to Bhishma, who was still alive out on the battlefield, lying on the bed of arrows. And it was only Bhishma who was finally able to console Yudhishthira. So I suppose part of what I'm saying is that And in this, in a way, kind of even goes back to that earlier question. All our questions, have to do with today, with spirituality has something to do with a subtle understanding, right? Whether it has to do with the how one is connected even when they're separated, that's a subtle thing to understand, or how there's bliss even in losing tastes of all your joys of this world. That's a subtle thing. And this is also a subtle thing, that I may sometimes feel a little lost in exactly what I'm meant to be doing right now. But even the effort to please Krishna, even in uncertainty, may please him more than like if we kind of have all the answers. It's like he's not expecting us necessarily to have all the answers. He's expecting us to, with love, want to satisfy him and do our sincere best to hear from the right sources, to surrender ourselves with full sincerity. And in one sense, if we're doing that and we're trying our best, we're succeeding in pleasing him. But it can be, it's a complicated world. It's a complicated world. It's not always easy for us to know. But those earlier things I said, those are solid. Read these texts, hear from them, from people that are really authorized representatives of them. Inquire from them in such a way where you're demonstrating your sincerity. I want to hear from you what you really feel is the best way that I could please God. And even if it's uncomfortable for me to hear, even if you're going to tell me to let go of things that I'm attached to, even if you're going to tell me to do things that I'm averse from, I really want to hear that truth. When you come to that level of inquiry, then Krishna can speak through the devotees and help you understand, what am I meant to do? All right.
I'm going to give you a head bobble.
Thank you, Raghunath.
Very
And
good.
I appreciated your answer, though. Everything you said was very valuable.
It was
And I think
valuable.
he's got a fuller
It
picture.
wasn't the answer to the question.
But it rounded the whole thing out, though, so it's good.
All right, I'll take that.
All right.
And that's it. That's it. And it's Saturday. And me and Mara are going bike riding today.
Look at you two. Are you sure that's what God intends for you to do?
I'm positive.
Okay.
I had a dream. Kaustubha, you got to get into these telepathy tapes. It's everything we've been talking about for years.
Okay, when we're driving up to Vermont, maybe we can listen to telepathy.
I'll be done by then, man.
Well, hang on.
You gotta listen to on the train up. I can't hang on. It's like
hang on.
I've been binge listening to them as I build my fence.
How many tapes?
Chief, you're gonna love the fence I'm building, Chief.
How many tapes are there?
How many tapes are there? I don't know. I'm on 8. What are you on, man?
Episode 10.
You don't listen together?
No.
I thought this was like a kind of, like something that you did together.
The Lover's Connection? It is, but we don't do it together.
Yeah.
You discuss it together.
Yeah, we discussed it after.
Yeah, and with other people. Everybody's out there is listening to this right now, even in our community.
Yeah, Linda hooked on it.
Linda.
Pamela Garland listens to it.
All right.
Luke Harmon got me into it.
What about
My neighbor, I got my neighbor into it.
People getting into Conclave now?
Conclave, that one didn't take off as much, Kaustubha.
Okay.
Sorry to say.
Sorry.